As for as for the last part of Module 3, we'll cover reference model. Okay. There are two important models that we are to cover, OSI and the TCPIP. These are layered model. Okay, like example, OSI has 7 layers, and then in each of these layers there are processes, and these processes deals with processes in data being transmitted, say from one network to another network, okay, or even one PC to another PC. Okay. Uh, so what's the purpose of this layered model, the OSI and the TCP/IP? Well, the good thing about this is because learning OSI, be able to define data flow, okay, be able to identify how the flow of the data is from one PC to another PC, be able to identify processes that occurs during transmission. Okay. Another, the good thing with this layered model, later we'll see that it classifies components, classifies components, and this may be a guide for vendors to for standardization. That when they say they manufacture a router, they would know what are the components inside the router. If they manufacture a LAN card, they would know, okay, that a LAN card is in this layer and should have these functions. Okay, so in a way, it also fosters competition, diba, between these vendors. Okay, there. Another is also layered model is very helpful when troubleshooting a network, okay, because when you troubleshoot, it is very important to identify the processes nga of the data flow. Another, be able to very important to identify the role of each components in the network. Okay, so it will that will be your guide when you troubleshoot an issue in the network. So again, it helps during network troubleshooting. Troubleshoot, I think it's okay na. And then last is, you know what? If you were to take other network training program, OSI is always discussed. Okay, and if you were to apply for work, you expect you will be asked about OSI. Okay, so good thing with the OSI, it eases, we can say that it eases teaching and learning. Okay, there. So now we'll cover this OSI. Okay, so in the OSI, I have a notes here at the bottom. In the OSI, there are 7 layers. These layers has a number. You have to be very well familiar with the numbers. Okay, I think it's also written here in the slide. So starting from the upper layer going down, okay, that in the upper layer we have the application, and then below it is the presentation, and then session, transport, network, data link, and physical. These layers communicates only to its adjacent layers, and in each of these layers they have specific roles or functions. Okay, for us to easily memorize these layers, to know their order, because they are again in sequence, is there are mnemonics. Example is say very popular mnemonics that say please, do not, oh my gosh, do not take Susan's pants away. There, it's a boy thing. Okay, so there. There's also Tagalog, ha? Like in Tagalog, ang pulis sa tulay nadapa. Ganyan. Okay? Where am I going? Dapa. There. Okay? Okay, that's I think okay already. Okay, I'll make it small letters. So there. Okay? So, uh, again, as I mentioned, there are specific functions. Okay, we'll cover it here. Functions. I also have it here in the uh, in my slide. In the application, this is where our network services are. So those network services, web browsing, email, those were the ones who are classified under the application layer. Okay, and then there are components like, take note that these network services, for this to work, you need to have an application software. Application software, for them to work, is there are specific protocols, like example HTTP for web browsing, SMTP say for email, FTP for file transfer, and etc. So we call this as application layer protocols, and they are all falling under the application layer. Okay, presentation layer, one function of this is data format. Okay, take note that our computer can recognize forms of data in text, audio, video, and image, and we have specific file type for that, right? So these file types, like for image, JPEG; for text, .text or doc; say for for audio is MP3, for video AVI. So these file types are the ones classified in the presentation layer. Okay. In the session, what it does is it manages the session. Say, for example, interaction of the server to the client, interaction of the client to the database server. These are the ones falling under the session layer. In terms of network components, there's none. Most of the network component falls under transport going down. Okay, like one important function of the transport layer is the reliable delivery. This is a function of the TCP. So TCP and another is UDP are the ones falling under the under the transport layer. In the network layer, function of this is to provide logical addressing. Okay, a logical address. This is the category of the IP. So IP address, which our operating system has, is under the network layer. In the data link, there's another address. We call it as physical address. Okay, and our physical address is the MAC address. Okay, how can the computer have a MAC? A MAC address is embedded in the LAN card, in the NIC, network interface card, or LAN card. Okay, a switch also falls under data link. Switch has the ability to process MAC. That is why it falls under data link. Router processes IP. That's why router, it falls under network layer. Okay, and then on the physical, this is where our cables are. So they are the ones who provide the physical link or connection. So cables, wireless are under physical layer. Okay, there. So there you have it. These are the important key points under the OSI. I have my notes here. Okay, just take note of that. Better, I think you should have a paper, you should have a notebook, right? And better to write this down. Those important keywords, you write it down. Okay. So there's another model developed, TCPIP. TCPIP is the internet model. Again, TCPIP is the internet model. Internet model. This is developed by the U.S. Department of Defense. Internet was first used in the military. Okay, that's a trivia. So there are only 4 layers in the TCP/IP model: application, transport, internet, and network access. You know what? Functions of this is similar to the OSI. So whatever functions you have, or what we've discussed in the application presentation session in the OSI, it is only for one layer in the TCP/IP model. Transport in the OSI is the same as transport in the TCP/IP. Network is the same as internet layer in the TCP/IP. And data link and physical is combined in the network access in the TCP/IP model. Okay. And then, again, as we mentioned, that uh, data is being encapsulated. The data is being encapsulated. Okay. Meaning of encapsulated is data. The data. There are added informations on the data during transmission. Okay. Aside from this data encapsulation, also what happens on the data is this segmentation. Segmenting the message, or it will undergo the process of segmentation. In this segmentation, data is broken down into pieces. Hahatiin into pieces. Okay? This happens, segmentation, it occurs in the transport layer. Okay? TCP and UDP are the ones that segments data. Okay? There. Yun. So the good thing with segmenting the message, it increases speed. Okay? Somehow helps that to transmit the data faster. Also, it increases efficiency. Like what we mean by efficiency with the segmentation, it somehow helps to, if you know, as we observe, we can run multiple applications at the same time. We owe it to segmentation and multiplexing. Okay, here. So, let me now. Okay, now in the data encapsulation, it is under PDU. PDU, it stands for Protocol Data Unit. And this is the one that defines the process of data encapsulation. And it says here in the PDU that the encapsulation, it starts at the transport layer. That when a data is to be transmitted, in the application, presentation, and session, it is still in the form of data. But when it falls on the transport layer, it becomes a segment. It becomes a segment. Okay? At the network layer, it becomes a packet. In the data link, it becomes a frame. And in the physical, it becomes bits. Okay? That's the PDU. So when a data is on the transport, it becomes segment, network, packet, so on and so forth. Okay? If you notice, example, you have a letter, you place it in an envelope. Since it is encapsulated or covered already with the envelope, you never call it already as a letter, but as a mail. Right? Even in Tagalog, when you have a sulat letter, you place it in an envelope, it will never be called as a sulat, but as a liham. Same thing here. Data is the letter, but once it is encapsulated, it will never be called as a letter. Okay? Because yun nga, there are added informations on it. Okay? Very important, that part. Okay? Take note of that. And this ends the last part. I hope you learn, you watched the video, you paid attention with the terms. And this ends module 3. So keep safe, and together we learn as one.